Hello friends, welcome again. Sumit this side. So here comes another interesting video in the Data Engineers Club. Again, we are conducting a live mock interview on data engineering, and the person who would be taking this interview is Pawan, who is a seasoned data engineer with more than 10 years of experience. He has 5 plus years of experience in data engineering and has worked on many technologies, and he has developed complex data solutions around cloud platforms, right? And the person who would be attending the interview would be Sachin. He has 3.5 years of experience working in Happiest Minds. His primary skill lies in technologies like PySpark and Azure Cloud. He has worked on Databricks, Data Factory, and a lot of other Azure related technologies. So I'm sure you would enjoy this video.
Okay, morning session.
Hi, good morning.
How are you?
Good.
Okay,
How are you?
I'm doing good, thanks. So why don't you start with your brief introduction?
So, yeah, Pawan. um, I am into data engineering from past 3 years, 3.5 years roughly. So I started with a service-based company, and there I used to work for a client directly. So I have working experience on Azure Databricks, SQL, a bit of PySpark there in the necessary scenarios, along with Power BI on a wider scale. Though, like in terms of Power BI, I used to be a end-to-end report developer, right from the fetching from the source and dropping them to bronze tables were done by a couple of other data engineers. Well, I would take it forward from the bronze layer, creating the silver layer tables and gold level tables as I needed, as my report needs. And so there is where I used to play with the required ETL stuffs for the reporting point of view, and so take it forward from there to the Power BI reports. So predominantly it was on Azure Databricks. Well, their Spark SQL and PySpark played a role.
And which organization you are working? I forgot that.
Now I'm working for a different service-based company called Happiest Minds.
Okay.
So yeah, from it's been like 2 months or so. Currently, my areas of work are only for as a backend developer. I'm working for the website uh, team. So that's only into SQL now, getting to know more about SQL Server and stored procedures and that triggers in that areas. It's been like quite a month or 2 months roughly in this role as a backend developer. But previous to this, for about 3.5 years, were into data engineering.
Okay, I have understood like what exactly role you have been playing in your last organization and current. Can you explain about the project as well? Like what exactly, who they serve, what is the main purpose of that project? Like,
Yeah. So I used to work for a retail chain organization. So wherein like a couple of use cases involves a retailing unit over in the US or Canada have multiple convenience stores along with the fuel stations, right? So my data all used to be either related to fueling stuff or the retail transactions that has happened across. So my main role was to build a Power BI report based on the different analytics that could be possibly done with the data. So, and also I used to handle all the transformations required for my data to be shaped out well for the reporting. So, yes, this is what.
and as you said that you were, it was it was like the transactional data, so the
Uh,
data volume must be very high.
yes, so sometimes the max data I've dealt with is close to 8 billion to 9 billion records is what
Okay.
I had
So
looked at.
so in which format you were getting the data and then how you were processing it?
The format, the actual source format, I'm not surely about it, but taking forward, I used to make sure my data is as a delta table, saved as a delta table once after my processing is done. So that was there was one challenging scenario wherein like this 8 billion records or 9 billion records close to data could not be used for Power BI processing. It's too huge for it. So there I had broken down into multiple dimensions and facts as I need for my reporting point of view. So yes, pretty much my data will be in the delta table format. So there are few scenarios where I'm getting data from an external business team. I mean, a different business team. Sorry, not an external. So that may be sometimes be in an Excel format or SharePoint location will be shared. So
Sachin, when we are saying that you are getting the transactional data, obviously it has
mm,
multiple records, like you are saying
mm,
8 or 9 million billions of data
billion.
records you
Mm,
were having. So obviously it's gonna be incremental data.
yes, it's always
Okay,
an incremental. Yeah.
okay. I'm more focused like you are getting into which format, like was it in Parquet, Avro, or it's like CSVs, like how you were getting the data, what optimizations you were doing on to data, and how you were storing it.
Mhm. So as I told you, a couple of the actual sources I wasn't involved into how they used to get the data, whereas
That's fine, but
I
in what
have taken
format you
forward.
receive that? Yeah,
I
when you were
received it as I received it as an uh, set of block files in my
okay.
ADLS or as an bronze table. So depends on how they had done it. So from there, you want me to explain about
That's
how
fine.
I took
Got
it
it.
forward?
No, that's fine. Like I got
Mhm,
it. You are getting to block
mhm,
file. Okay. So, as you said, like you have started, like you have used PySpark as well into your project,
mhm.
right? Can you just walk me through the PySpark architect?
Yes. So, well, the Spark architecture is based on an master slave architecture or an approach. So, wherein we have a driver node and we have multiple worker nodes, which we actually configure based on our data volumes. So, this management between the driver node and the worker nodes are taken care by the cluster manager. So, which navigates the data towards multiple workers based on the configuration that we have set. And yes, the cluster manager basically acts as a mediator between the driver node and the worker node. Let's assume now we have a set of code that has been described on the Databricks notebook. So this the very first step. What actually happens is the code is being the very first step towards the processing, right? So this is where the driver program is initiated. The set of stages or a set of jobs or stages or tasks are created accordingly. So suppose like I have been uh, where condition. I mean, sorry, I'm filtering to to some specific records. So this is being created as an RDD in the lowest level. So every such transformation that we make has been into an each RDD where the lineage of DAX has been formed. So this internally happens to be a logical plan for a Spark to know like which process to execute and what is the sequence of it, and all the scenarios has been laid down in the logical plan. This has been split across the multiple worker nodes to process it, and after the processing, each and every output of worker node has been traversed back to the driver node, giving us the output. So the let's say only when an action is triggered we get to see what output have we received based on a transformation. It's just like I have a data frame, I'm filtering for specific records and I'm selecting only specific columns based on my needs. So this has not been triggered yet. So I mean this there is a transformation yet, but it is not actually triggered to the actual Spark engine to process it and give us a result. Only when I make some actions to display my data frame or collect a couple of records or so. Only at this moment, an action is triggered, and we get to see our results based on the previous transformations that we have performed.
Okay, so when we are defining, let's say I apply a filter operation and then I apply a certain other ETL functions on top of my, let's say, RDD or data frame, it won't execute immediately. It will just create some logical
Plan
graph.
there.
So do you know what we call that? Sorry, what do you?
Yeah, the logical plan. Yes.
So do you know about the DAG?
Yes, we abbreviate it as directed acyclic graphs, wherein like each I'd say every transformation, maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here. So every transformation that happens, being so as the name says, it's a graph. So it has its edges and the vertices. So every RDD probably it is forming a node or a vertex to it, to the graphs, and this creates an lineage of transformations that has to taken.
That's right. Okay, as you said about the RDD, so may I know what's the difference between RDD, data frame, and dataset, and which one primarily we use when we are using PySpark?
So in most of my cases, I prefer data frame. I have preferred data frame. So firstly, the primary difference is RDD being the basic data structure or the fundamental data structure of the Spark. So even though I write as an data frame, behind the scene, it is what RDD is being processed actually. So well, RDD, as we know, it is the basic fundamental. So I would use RDDs when I'm doing some low-level transformations, like very minute set of transformations are happening to my objects. Whereas a data frame, uh, they are like well built with the ability to understand the schema based on the data I feed, and I can. Handle my transformations well with the data frame because of the technicalities such as the optimizers or multiple get lists that are associated with data frames. So data frames can be helpful for transforming bigger data, whereas RDD might be not that performant oriented when I'm dealing with a larger data. Yeah.
And let's say I have a data frame in PySpark, can I convert into a Python data frame or vice versa?
Yes, we can use this pandas library to convert it to a Python data frame and vice versa back to data frame, back to Spark data frame using 2DF methods also.
Okay. And let's say if you're running a Spark job, your job fails, then where you check your logs?
Uh, my logs generally in Databricks, I will make sure I have a separate logger path where all the logs have been fed. So suppose if my job doesn't have any logs or so, I would go open up the job that has recently failed to look into the steps actually where they have. So my approach for writing a job, for writing any notebook, I mean for any writing any operations on a notebook will be, firstly I'll try to split the code based on their functionalities. So I'm importing a couple of libraries or so, doing some configurations. They will be basically split across multiple cells in the notebook so that it is easy for us to debug later in case of failures. So generally, I have this logger utilities which basically saves my log files. So I would go back to it. In case if we don't have, I'll do a manual
Any recent
glance.
failure that you observed and what action you have taken onto that?
Uh, mm, yes, probably most of the failures I've seen is related to this name node or a driver node failure. So that generally happens when the join has not been approached well, well way, because let's say I have a smaller dimension table. Okay, to talk about my own scenario. So let's assume we have this dimension table for stores. So hardly, let's say around 1,000 stores are there. So 1,000 records. is the max, right? So whereas I'm joining that with a transaction table that is having whole 3 years of data on some particular field, just with a regular inner join or a left join doesn't make it lighter on the cluster point of view. So in those scenarios, using a broadcast is what I have approached it. So wherein, as we know, the broadcast, the smaller table being my dimension table, has been copied across multiple executors. So this basically reduces the um, load on the clusters, and also I don't see any longevity of the runtime there. So pretty much the name node, or in case if I'm fetching from some blob stores or somewhere when I don't have the schema being specified, everything is being brought as a string from there. So when I process some mathematical operations, that fails obviously due to the data type mismatch. So these are common scenarios I have.
Okay. And as you said, like you were having transactional data with 8-9 billions of records. So what was the cluster configuration that you
Uh,
were using? Because it's
Yes, so the cluster configuration, the very first scenario when we approached it, right? So that, like, even though with 1 TB cluster, it doesn't suffice well. So later we have brought down into a couple of, I guess, I am not able to recall back to it because that's been quite a few months ago. So I guess 8 to 10 workers with the memory optimized cluster, one of mm, 32, or I'm not exactly sure about it, but I went through the metrics, the Gangly UI, and then post that did some um, trial and error on the cluster by choosing an better optimal version, not going with a high-end version at the very first case. So I believe like I've increased the number of workers to test it how it actually performs, and then reducing the memory as because I wanted multiple cores, so I was sure about it because this is going to be a huge data set. At least we were also partitioning it with the
and
month formats.
how
So
long it were taking for processing this amount of data?
around the 30 to 45 minutes. No, it first run happens for a long while. First run happens for a long while. So the initial load, whereas the subsequent runs were closely a million or so. That used to be done in 15 minutes max.
Okay, just to read the data, it was taking 15 minutes, you're saying.
Yes, yes. The incremental loads.
Okay.
Mhm.
So obviously it would be a day-long job if you have to perform the ETL operation on top of that.
Mm.
Okay. Okay, as you mentioned joins, I would like to give you one problem statement
Sure.
that you can uh, cover either with joins or with some other logic.
Mhm.
Okay. So do you mind pulling up your screen?
Sure. A notepad works, right?
Yeah, that's fine. I just need the logic. So shall I shoot?
Mm. Can you see my
Yeah,
screen?
it's visible.
Okay.
So
Okay.
let's say I'm having, as you have worked on into retail segment. So
Mhm.
let's say we are having data sets from two big giants, let's say from Amazon and let's
Mhm.
say from Myntra.
Okay.
Okay, we are having the two tables. Let's say one is from Amazon, another is from Myntra. Okay, and in both the tables, we are having customer ID, transaction date, transaction amount, and yeah. So these are the three columns that we are having in both the, let's say, tables,
Mhm.
and it's our day-to-day tables that uh, or that we are using to record the daily transactions.
Okay.
Okay, so obviously there would be customers who are purchasing from Amazon, there would be customers who are purchasing from Myntra. I want
Mhm.
to know how many customers are there who are just uh, being active onto Amazon and not on Myntra. So they are having just doing the purchase from Amazon but not
Mhm.
from Myntra.
Amazon only basically, right? So you want the customers they are being purchased. I mean, they are shopping only on Amazon,
Yeah.
and not on Myntra.
That's it.
My first scenario will be going with a subquery where I'll have basically I'll select the customer IDs from Amazon. Here I'll be selecting the customer ID from Myntra. So I'm eliminating those customers that are not present in the customer list of Myntra. Is one approach. Well, subqueries with an inner clause is going to be a time-taking operation.
That works. I'll just modifying it.
Mhm.
I want to know my so let's say we add one more column into here. It's a category.
Sorry, category.
Yeah. So there could be
Okay.
different categories. Okay.
Okay.
Like hardware, like certain other categories
Mhm.
of clothes and
Okay.
other apparels.
Mhm.
Now I want my, let's say, top 10 customers with respect to the transaction amount in each category.
So from we are considering only Amazon.
Yeah, that's
okay. So top 10 categories.
top 10 customers from each
Category.
category.
Okay, top 10 customers from each category
That's correct.
based on their transaction
amount.
Okay. Mm, okay, I'll use _rank function, a window function over here. So we are restricting only for category and amount, the descending order.
Okay.
So this will give me an integer values between 1 to 10. I mean, this will go
Yeah,
on, but I'm only going to filter only for dense rank less than 10.
Cool. Okay. I'll give you another scenario now. Let's say we are in an organization and there is a table, let's say org table is there, and it contains again the ID and then in time, timing, not
time.
it's just like the timing.
Time, okay.
Okay, and status, and then project, and then your supervisor. Yeah. Okay, so what happens that every time an employee punch a card, a record has been populated in this table with the ID of that employee, what is the timestamp, and the status, whether the employee is in or out, whether you are entering inside the building or you are going out of the building. Then which project you have been allocated, what's your supervisor ID. Okay. Project, let's say anything.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I want to know at this current, like right now the time is 11:46 a.m. How many people are there inside the building?
So the status can be in or out, you're saying?
That's it.
Okay, suppose if this employee 1 has logged out, he has stepped out, swiping at 9:15, so his status will turn out.
Yes, I don't. Then it won't be counted in as like currently how many people are there inside the building.
Yeah, just to understand that. Yeah, got it.
Yes.
So my flag will be status here. where I'll be filtering on. Okay. Either I can use a subquery over here also, and I can use a CTE where I'll be using a CTE for out swipes. Here I'll be picking those IDs from our table where their status is out between, and the time is less than our current time, maybe 11:30 or so. This is going to give me those employee IDs who are not actually in. And
That's not the correct way. Let's say at 9:15 the employee was out, and 10 o'clock the employee again came back. There would be another status.
India. Okay.
Consider the scenario.
Okay, then just a moment. I'm just thinking if we can categorize based on in time and out time. So max out time, I mean taking the max of time. Okay. I mean, I don't have any idea. I'm just thinking. So, okay, suppose I'll be categorizing the employees based on maximum of in time and maximum of out time. So I'll be getting two records there, I mean, two different columns. Then if my in time is greater than the out time, so my in time, I've taken the max of the in time, right? So if that is greater than the out time, then I'm considering he is still in the campus and flagging him as in. Whereas if it is a vice versa, I'm ruling that employee out. So
Okay.
probably that works.
Yeah, that could be one of the potential solutions.
I mean,
Okay.
I wish I had any SQL Server environment to just play around with the data. Just
Yeah, that will work.
that's
Okay. So, have you used any versioning tool into your system, into your project?
a versioning tool.
Yeah.
Yes, Azure DevOps.
Okay.
For all
And
the production deployments, I've used Azure DevOps.
okay. Um, okay. Let's switch back to Spark again. So, are you aware what's the difference between client and cluster mode?
Yes, suppose I have a Jupyter Notebook installed on my machine, which is not connected to any distributed systems or any server outside. So my cluster, that is the driver node being inside my machine, acts as a client mode. Well, I'm using Databricks. We have clusters deployed on an cloud environment on some external VM. So that is going to be my cluster mode. So yeah. Well, main difference is like if my machine crashes, the whole program is going to crash. Whereas in the cluster mode, it is well safe for the production environments wherein we have a backup even though the driver node fails or so on.
And as you said, like you were having day-to-day transactions, so you were storing it into a database. So, what exactly is the difference between the database, a data warehouse, and a data lake?
Uh, well, database, I can call it a part of an well, okay. So suppose I am looking into some application, maybe Amazon only. I'm working on some Amazon stuff. So I would frame all the related Amazon transactions into the Amazon DB. So that is going to be only a category for me inside a data warehouse. Well, whereas a data warehouse is an a classical say platform where we have relational data being stored over there with all the well, okay, to frame it in right words, right? So data warehouse is a platform where we have the ability to store our data in a schematized manner, in a relational way. So we don't
So that
have
we are
any.
doing into database as well, right? You have your schema defined.
Yes, yes. The same we have in databases also, whereas in
Well, Mhm.
data warehouse also it is same where we have the data stored in relational formats. They are built in such a way that they process the relational data well at a better speeds due to all those asset transaction abilities and so on, whereas a data lake is um, an added feature on top of data warehouses where we can store both structured, unstructured, and semi-structured data along with the structure as well. Of course, what data warehouse can store is only the structure, whereas lake houses can data lakes can store both structured, unstructured, as well as semi-structured, and followed by their disadvantages would be they cannot process huge amounts of um, say data at a greater speeds how data warehouses can process. So I
is that you're talking about the data lake? They cannot process the
lakes
data or database?
at a greater speeds how the data warehouses can do it in terms of the structured data.
Okay, cool. And let's say I'm reading a file. I give you a file. Let's say it's in CSV format. I want you to convert it into Parquet. Can you use your Spark for it?
Yes, so I would read the file from the source using Spark read CSV format, and post which while writing it back to a location, I would
I
use
give
the
you the
park.
schema as well. Let's
Hmm.
say I tell you like what column, what data type it is. So can you use that as well into the read CSV options that Spark provides?
Sorry, you give me the columns.
I give you the schema basically that
Hmm.
let's say this is the age, this is string, this is
Hmm.
like age is integer,
Hmm.
gender is string. That schema I give you. Can you utilize that, or it automatically fetch that from the CSV?
No, I can give this option called as info schema has true, so that will automatically fetch it for me.
Mhm. So let's say I have 1 TB of database. I want to move it to cloud. Okay, and anything. It could be AWS or it could be Azure. Can you explain me end-to-end pipeline for this? Explain the sources you will use and why.
Uh, I have seen this scenarios using ADF, so can I proceed
Yeah,
with
yeah, please.
ADF? Yeah.
Yep.
So my data is in on-prem, right? And my source is in on-prem. My sync is going to be the cloud, right? So firstly, I start off with setting up an integration runtimes for in the ADF. We have the IRs where we can set up the self-hosted IRs on our sources. So that will be my source, and using the data sets and the link service, I'll set up, I'll configure based on my sync and the source parameters. I'll use the copy activity inside the ADF to navigate my data from the on-prem, the sync, the source to the sync on my Azure cloud. Or well, in Databricks also I have seen where we have the ability to move to mm, external applications, maybe SQL Server, or where if my data is present over there. So from there I would also move it forward. But I haven't worked much on configuring for an external sources that wide scale. So
Okay. Okay, Sachin, I think I'm good. That's all from my side. Any questions that you have? Anything else?
Nothing. So
No.
nice meeting. Yeah,
Same here.
that
Have a
was
great
great.
day.
I just wanted to know like where actually I'm standing in terms of my tech stack or so. So it's
It, it,
been.
it was good. Thank you. Enjoy your
Thank
weekend.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
You too.